Panthers Stanley Cup winning head coach Paul Maurice to take your
That's
questions.
not getting old.
I bet
You
not.
can say it as many times as you want.
I bet not. Please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. We have mic holders both sides of the room. We'll start left side, third row, Frank.
Paul, you've waited a long time for a night like this.
Yeah.
Curious if, as the series started to turn, at any point did you say, man, what's it going to take to get my hands on this thing?
No, I didn't think like that. But I'm not sitting here, Frank, saying we knew it, right? Like when it's going sideways on you. I loved our game 5. That's probably the reason I had kind of hope that we would be able to play close to that game at home. And in truth, at the end, game 5 and possibly game 2 were our 2 best games. And we lost that game. But if you watch a lot of hockey and you study it, you know how you played. And if we had played that game tonight and lost, I don't want to say I would be at peace with it. I wanted tonight more than any other game to look a certain way. I wanted to stand behind the bench and watch the first period because we hadn't been very good in the first period. Under the most pressure, having lost 3 in a row, your dream slipping out the door. Wanted it to look a certain way, that the players play a certain way, that they had belief and courage. And the word that we used over the last 3 days was the freedom to play the game. And I don't mean I had the handcuffs on them. I mean, if it's on your stick and it's on you, you're playing the game. You're not banging it out, right? Except for the entire third period, which is, we iced it 400 times. But that's what I wanted. So I never thought, what's it going to take to get your hand? Like, what do I got to do? Because I didn't know it then, and I didn't know it when I got asked the question at the start of all this, and I said I need one, right? And I got to win a Stanley Cup. There's a whole bunch of things you don't know until you get there. You don't win a Stanley Cup. I didn't win the Stanley Cup tonight. I got to share it. And that is a completely different idea. Not that I thought this was all about me. I certainly didn't. I mean, you can replace me tomorrow, and that's a good hockey team. But that's what I learned. You don't win a Stanley Cup. You share it. You get to share it.
Left side, first row, Mike.
They always say the cup is really heavy that first time you lift it over your head.
Yes.
Did it feel that way, or was it like a feather? Or like
way heavier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I haven't been in the gym in a long time. So there was a slight moment when I'm hanging on and going, am I going to be able to get this thing over my shoulders, right? Because they're all beat up. Anyway, it's heavier than I thought. Way heavier.
That same row, Ryan.
Hey, Paul, Stanley Cup champion.
Yes, sir. I like that.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Aaron Ekblad is a player that's been with the Panthers almost as long as anybody else. I haven't talked about him too much, but clearly an important member of the team. What does he mean to the Panthers?
So take a look at and I'm going to say maturation of his game. So I think in the year prior to, and I got nothing to do with that. So when I say this isn't me saying, look what I did with Aaron Ekblad, because what I did is I took him from a high point producing, very expensive defenseman, and I just ground the points right out of him, right? That's what I did for him. But you find, sometimes you find a different way. So he's a power play guy. He puts up big numbers on a high scoring team. And then in some ways he has to accept a change. And it wasn't a problem for him to do it. He came off the top on the power play and he went to the flank, and then he came off the flank. And then I think what happened is he, broke his foot, subluxed his shoulder twice, had an oblique tear, and played through it. And in order to play the game, he was so broken and beat up, he had to play this kind of grinding, bang it out, defend. He also lost Mackenzie Weegar, who was that kind of offensive game, and now he's playing with Gus Forsling, and we're running him against the other team's play, so I'll just defend. And then he turns out he's really, really good at it. And I think he truly, truly embraced it. And part of it is he's not as young man anymore. He's not old, but he's not 23 looking for the next contract. He's got all he needs, just wants to win. But he had a major change in his style of play in his career, and now he owns that, so he gets to play a lot longer just like that.
Back to Frank, left side, third row.
If I could ask a follow-up, we talked to you a little bit earlier in the series, and you talked about, you know, what it was like to first kind of get your eyes on the Stanley Cup in the Sioux, and now, you know, you just talked about maybe coaches have different dreams than players in terms of what you wanted this game to look like.
Yeah.
Did you see it, and was this everything that you wanted it to be?
I was good with the result. You're not going to believe this. And I don't even know if it's 100%. It's not true. But a piece of me believes this. I was good after the first period with whatever the result was going to be. I got a small little job to do here. The lowest minute guy on that team is 10 times important as I'm not trying to be overly humble. I got a piece of this. You know, in my piece of this, we were good. Or I didn't screw it up. Right? Because you lose and it's not just you. So I'll tell you a story. I get to the rink really early in the morning. So when I come in yesterday morning, we got this big bank of 6 TVs, and one of them has a network on it I want it. And the banner is, if the Florida Panthers lose, is this the biggest collapse in sports history? And that damn thing is sitting on the TV, and you're waiting for, like, roll it, people, let's move it. 15 minutes. So I'm waiting by the door for my video guy to come in and say, so we have these banks, it's a new rink, right? We have all over. Get that network off our TV. Because I'm sitting there going, and I don't like it, and I'm 57. But what happens if you're 25 and you're going, I got to live 50 more years as being a part of the biggest collapse in sports history? So from the loss to the drop of the puck, something has to change and something has to get better. And that would be where I think I worked. Once the puck stopped tonight, I was done working. And I liked our first, so I was good. I was good. I was at peace with, I wanted to win, but we weren't scrambling around in the first trying to find our game.
And I know you're a humble guy, but did you feel at all the weight of a bunch of people in the hockey world pulling in your direction over the last few weeks?
All of my close friends, with the exception of DeBoer, know not to text me anytime around game times or if I'm grumpy. So he sent me some forechecking tips, which I appreciate, Pete. Yeah. So I have good friends. I have good friends in the media. We've crossed paths. We kind of worked for the same group for a while. And I think it's a little bit why that Sarah McLachlan commercials are good, right? Like, we resonate with suffering animals. And I think they've seen me on TV for 30 years, and they're kind of going, can you give this guy a Stanley Cup? Because this is painful and pitiful to watch. I don't want to see this man go through this anymore. I think as humans, I got adopted by the Florida Panthers tonight.
What does it mean to you to see these players, this group, be finally rewarded with a cup and have this stamp next to their name?
So in our small little world down here, these guys had to work really, really hard, which makes no sense because there isn't a Stanley Cup champion that didn't, right? But they're all saying the exact same thing. This was so hard. This group was different from the time I called them 2 years ago. I kept getting off the phone going, these guys are different. And I think that you people would appreciate it, truly appreciate it.